YouTube, I'm back again today for another game review. Today I'm very excited to check out Heir to the Throne from Amber Palace Games. This is for 2 to 4 players, age is 10 plus, so it'll take you about 45 to 60 minutes to play. And in Heir to the Throne, you are a royal family, and everyone's going to have a royal family they're going to start with, and your goal is to pass down your crown to an eligible great-grandson who has to be a strong man who is not a bastard and not illegitimate. But it's not going to be that easy because you have to have kids, and then you have to have grandkids, and then you have to have that great-grandkid, and all the while people are going to be marrying your family and killing your family and turning your family impotent and turning them into bastards somehow, and all sorts of stuff in this very zonky kind of out there game. What am I talking about? Let's open it up and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Heir to the Throne. So first and foremost, we're going to handy dandy rule booklet. It's 18 pages, double-sided, full color. It's got some pictures, especially in the front and the back, but the middle part, oh man, the middle part is just like this giant open void of just text on text on text on text, and you're just like, oh gosh, there's so much text there, and you're not going to want to go to it. It also doesn't help that despite the fact that the game is incredibly simple, like it's a very simple game, there's only 2 types of cards really, and there's only 3 actions you can take. The rules are just not well done. You'll have a lot of lingering questions where you're like, I think I'm doing this right. And we had probably 3 or 4 things where like, are we doing this right? And we're just like, we can look at the rules, and we would start looking at the rules and be like, I don't want to look through all these damn rules. And we couldn't find what we wanted. It wasn't the easiest to find what we wanted. And there still were some questions, even after going through the rules 2 or 3 times, we're like, we'll assume we're doing it right. So the rule booklet really needed to be laid out substantially better. A glossary would have been absolutely outstanding and could have completely changed my opinion on this game, I really do think. But let's get into the actual gameplay itself. So in Heir to the Throne, what you're going to be doing is you are going to start with a family up on the top right here. These families are going to have traits. Every person in the game is going to have 3 traits. Maybe they're a little bit debaucherous. Maybe they're wild in the bedroom. Maybe they look a little bit like their uncle or the baker or someone. Maybe they're very holy, or maybe they're very, a good person, a decent person. Each person's going to have 3 different symbols. What you're trying to do is you are trying to build a family tree down to the 4th row, and on the 4th row, you need to have a boy down there who is able to have kids, which means they're not impotent, and also not a bastard, which is the black sheep right there. If you can do that, and you can survive for 1 round without someone killing them or stealing them or marrying them into another family or something like that, then you'll be the winner of the game. So let's go over the components. Let's get into the gameplay. So first, component-wise, everybody's going to start with one of these families up here on the top. They look like that, and they're families. I mean, they're just families. There's not really much you can do with screwing with these cards. All these square cards, yes, these are cards you can mess with once they get flipped over. I'm 99% sure, and I shouldn't say 99, I'm 89% sure you cannot mess with any of these cards while they are flipped like this, but once they get flipped face over, which you'll do at the beginning of your turn, like so, then people can start screwing with them. So these are the sons of this couple right here. So I got Michael, you're right, we're really going to pay attention to any of the names, and they all just start to blend together after a while. So on your turn, you're going to take 3 and only 3 actions. You're going to have 5 of these cards right here. And these cards are how you're going to do the actions, and this is the majority of the game right here. Each card is going to have 2 actions on it. So some of them will be pretty straightforward. Marriage. Marry an eligible daughter to one of your eligible sons. So if someone else had a daughter underneath their family that was flipped over like this, and they're not married, then you could marry them, boom, to your son, and you take that daughter and you would just go ahead and put her just like that. And you have created yourself a couple. Good for you. That's fantastic. So marriage is pretty straightforward. There's also some cards that will marry eligible men to ladies. Takes after mother. Choose one of your eligible couples, have a birth matching at least one of the mother's traits. So for instance, let's go back to that example where I had this. If I played that card right there, I would then go through this pile until I come to a card that matches one of the mother's traits, which would be, she looks a little bit like a relative or something like that, and boom. So now I would have another row in my family. So we got the original, we got the kids, and now we got the grandkids, which means all we need is a boy down here. It's not that simple, though, because there's going to be a lot of cards that attack people. So let's see if I can find one. So, make the targeted character or one of their children infertile. So, I could target this character right here if I was another opponent because it has the symbol in the upper left-hand corner. Boom. And now this person would be infertile, which means they can't have a kid. Kind of stopping that bloodline right there unless they have a miracle baby, which once again is a card right here. A lot of the cards in this game kind of play like a soap opera now that I think about it, but continuing onward. Buying forgiveness, remove illegitimate from the chosen character and or one of their children as long as you have enough money, because enough money will do everything in the game. So, you're going to start off with 5 of these cards, and the 3 actions that you could possibly take. The first action is that you can mulligan your hand. You can say, I don't like my hand. I think it's a pretty crummy hand. And if you do this as your first action, you get rid of all your cards and you draw 4 additional cards, and then you have 1 action left. You can do that at any point, but you have to make sure it is your first action that you take of your 2 actions. Next action you can do is you can just discard 1 card, which is never fun, but you're like, all right, I don't want to get rid of all my cards, but I'm just going to discard 1. The last action you can do is you can play a card. And those are the only 3 things you're going to do in the entire game. You're just going to do those over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So for this one, I definitely would have married that pretend lady to her, and then they would have had a baby. So it'd been a marriage, and then takes after mother, and then I would draw 2 cards. And then my turn would be over. So maybe on somebody else's turn, they attack this guy, so now he's impotent. I drew 2 cards, it gets back to me. And now I get to take 2 more actions. So, well, if I have an impotent one down there, so you know what? Maybe I will go ahead and... yeah, so I'll have a scandal. So here we go. Choose an eligible character, have a birth. This child is illegitimate. So despite the fact that this guy is single and he's not married, oh, it's such a scandal, he's going to have a kid, and bada boom, he's had Tim the Pennywise. And that what I can hopefully do then is marry Tim the Pennywise off to somebody else, but now he's illegitimate because it's part of a scandal. But anywho, his next kid would then also be illegitimate, so it kind of moves down the tree, and you'd have to remove that illegitimate somehow. Luckily, I could do that because he's got the money, and I have that money card in my hand. But anywho, you're going to continue to do this until eventually you get down to that 4th row, and there is a king down there. There's a king down there who is ready to be crowned. You put the crown on his head, and if no one is able to kill him or steal him or make him a bastard or illegitimate over the course of the next turn, and it gets back to you, you will win the game. And that, in a nutshell, is how you're going to play Heir to the Throne. Alrighty then, Heir to the Throne from Amber Palace Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. 2 to 4 players, restricted player count. Also, 45 to 60 minutes, this game can stretch out longer than you want it to for what the game is. Now, 45 to 60 minutes for me personally is not that long of a game, but when the game only has 3 actions you can take grand total, and one of them is just discarding a card, and the other one is discarding all of your cards, so you really only have 1 action, which is play a card, it does outstay its welcome. If there was more variety of cards, it wouldn't bug me so much. So I feel like if this had an expansion, or if there was just more to the game, I would have liked it better. But that is something I didn't want to mention. It does get a little bit repetitive. It's just do the same thing over and 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 over again. Also, there's a good deal of randomness to this game. You know, if you have 2 kids on your turn and they're both going to be grandchild and they both turn out to be girls, and somebody else has 2 great grandkids and they both turn out to be boys, there's nothing you can do about that. It's the luck of the draw, pretty much, which will be a turnoff to some people. Now, the game is ages 10 plus, and I would agree with that based on how simple the game is, because it is a relatively simple game, but the theme is going to turn some people off because you're going to be talking about, you know, people having sex and people having bastards and people being impotent and people getting divorced and people getting killed, which might not be a conversation you want to talk to with your 10-year-old, but that's a your mileage may vary kind of thing. It really depends on how mature your child is, or if you talk about sort of stuff on a regular basis. Another comment of the game is that I really wish they would have very clear made it more clear whether or not someone is a man or a woman. Most of the time, if you really look at the card and read the card, you can figure it out. But there are some cards and you're like, wait, is that a man or a woman? And then you'll read it and it's like, oh, the name's Mittens or something like that, or Sarah, and you'll be like, oh, that's definitely a woman, or that's definitely a man. But still, I wish it would have been slightly more clear, because some of them are not as clear as you would like them to be. Any other cons I have with the game? Oh, the rules. Yeah, duh. The big one. The rules. The rules. And I'll be brutally honest with you. I've had this game sitting on my shelf for quite some time, on my review shelf over there. And it's been sitting there for so long because I really just did not want to go through these crappy rules. And the rules, man, you can't just have 3 straight pages of nothing but text, 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 text. That was really kind of annoying. And the rules themselves just were not as clear as I would like them to be. They left me with unanswered questions where we were like, we're pretty sure we're doing this right, but we're not 100% sure. It doesn't actually make the most sense thematically, some of the things that we were doing, but we're like, I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to work. And I hate when games do that. Like, if there's one lingering thing where I'm like, I think that's how it's supposed to work, that's fine. But 2, 3, maybe even up to 4, not the greatest. So the rule booklet definitely needed to be better. The crazy thing is, I think all this rule booklet needed, not even pictures, just give me a glossary so I know exactly where to go to. I can find that exact page and where I need to go, so I'm not flipping through giant walls of text. So that's what I got on the cons. Moving on to the pros, I thought I was not going to like this game. I really didn't. The rule booklet left a really bad impression on us. Our first game took about 2 hours, which was way too stinking long. But I did. I actually got into the game, and I will say I think it is a good game if you can get past... Oh, that's the last comment I have of this game. It's too long for what it is, in my personal opinion. I talked about how it can get repetitive, but the big thing is, it's just... You'll get there, and you'll have a crown on somebody's head, and then you'll get attacked. And you'll get there, and have a crown on somebody's head, and then you'll get to attack. And then somebody else will get there, and they'll have a crown on somebody's head, and then they'll just get attacked. And it just keeps going like that. There's like a solid 5 to 15 minutes you are going to have, where it is literally someone is going to have a crown on their head pretty much all the time, and it's just, do I have a card to screw them over? And that's... Yeah, I wish that could have been compressed down to, say, 2 minutes. 2 minutes of that instead of 5 to 15 minutes of that, because that really could have made the game a lot better, in my personal opinion. But continuing on with the pros, I got into the theme, and that we had some legitimate laughs. Each time we played this, we played it 3 different times. We had some good laughs at the game because it's really kind of funny. There's just scenarios that happen in the game that if you're paying attention and you're actually getting in a little bit into the theme, can be really hilarious. So, for instance, one of the games we played, I had this huge, like, really overweight, like, super white guy. Like, he was just white, pale as a ghost, and he was impotent. And we laughed the whole time. He was like, oh, yeah, he does look like the kind of guy who might be impotent. And then he marries this smoking hot wife. Like, she's super hot, one of the hottest cards in the game. And we're like, oh, man, super hot wife marrying this impotent guy so they just get it on all the time. But then it was in my hand, and I was like, oh, my God, we're having a miracle baby. We have a miracle baby. It's amazing. And I was super excited also because that miracle baby was, it's like, oh my gosh, this was the 4th row. So I was having the great grandkid. I was like, yeah, I'm having the great grandkid. It's a miracle baby. Hopefully it's a boy. And flipped it over, and it's this super black guy. Like his skin is just like straight black. Like he's probably, just going by color, the blackest person in the game, named Andre. He's this big, strong, buff, like really black guy. And we're like, wait, that's hilarious. This is the miracle baby. It's not really a miracle baby. She just cheated on him with a super black guy. And it just created this really funny scenario where it's like, oh my God, that's funny. It was really humorous. We got a kick out of it. And there were some other scenarios too where it's like, some of the characters, I don't know if they're intentionally supposed to be funny or if they were taking the artwork really seriously, but they just look funny and they sound funny. And if you're getting into the names, or you're getting into this and the artwork and stuff like that, there are some funny situations to be had. If you're not, then I can't recommend the game, because that is honestly what pushed this from an okay game to a good game for me, was how much laughter we got out of the game, which was was a very pleasant surprise. But continuing on to what I liked about the game, it's very easy to teach. I'm not going to go with easy to learn, because you are going to have questions lingering. There's not much to remember. I mean, there's only 3 actions you can do. You draw back up to 5, you do your 3 actions, you do that over and over and over and over again. And in the end, I mean, I had a good time with the game. Am I keeping the game? No, it's not good enough. It's not worth keeping. If it went to 6 or 7 players and it still gave me the same feeling without downtime between turns, then yeah, maybe I would. If it had more meat on the bones and it catapulted it just a little bit higher, yeah, I might keep it in my collection because it is a different and unique game, and I do like the theme of the game. I felt like this theme has been done in a lot of other different games, but this one I feel does it a lot better. But in the end, Heir to the Throne, I think it's a good game. But I think it's a very forgettable game, which is unfortunate. It could have been better. It needed a glossary. It needed a little more out of the box. So I think it's good, but I think it's ultimately forgettable. It's not going in my collection. And I really have a hard time recommending you putting it into your collection with all the other amazing games that are out there. So there's Heir to the Throne from Amber Palace Games, one that just did not have enough in the box. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know who is the black sheep of your family. Wow, we're getting super dark and morbid here. The black sheep of my family is probably my dad because he's in prison and he's a pedophile. He's also probably a murderer. So that just took a really, that was just jarring turn right there. But aside from my dad, it would probably be my uncle, who is, he sells weed, but he's also a pizza man, and he makes really good money, because pizza guys actually make surprisingly good money, especially if you have seniority there and you're competent, but he also sells weed in addition to the pizza, so he makes fat cash. But he's definitely a black sheep as well. My aunt is also a black sheep. She just kind of lives out near the woods and smokes weed, and she refuses to get a real job. She just wants to be a telemarketer her whole life so she can work at home from the phone and smoke weed. My uncle, also the same thing. He's on disability, and he could probably get a job because it's something with his vision, but he could definitely get a job, but he just chooses not to because he wants to be on disability, which I can't really fault him. I would do the same thing. He's also a black sheep. My cousin is also a black sheep as well because, well, she just kind of goes from guy to guy to guy and just throws herself at them as strong as humanly possible and moves from state to state, and then it always just ends up going terribly, terribly awry, because when you do that, you know, you really should vet people out more before you move in with them. I'm obviously a black sheep because, you know, I had just an absolutely horrendous 20s where I was addicted to just about everything under the sun, and I ended up going to jail for a short period, a very short period, and, dropping out of college and blowing through tons and tons of my mom's life insurance money. And you know what? My whole damn family's a black sheep. But let me know in the comments below, who's the black sheep in your family? Hopefully, there's only 1 or 2, and it's not you. But hey, more black sheeps make life spicy. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.